Good afternoon. Happy Wednesday, happy day after the fall equinox, although we are certainly still in the energy of the equinox time. I'm Deborah Roth from Spirited Living. Delighted that you're here. And this is my weekly date with your inner goddess team, where we can dance with our divinely feminine energy. And that really applies whether you are male or female. Hi, Bob. This applies to you too. So on Saturday, when I've been doing my Deb's reflections, no longer Deb's deck reflections, since no longer going out to the country on the weekends, and I talked about more at length about the fall equinox then, and was kind of curious to see what goddess, what symbol, what representation of the divine feminine wanted to bubble up and be with us today. And I seem to be on an Egyptian kick over the last month or so, because it was MAAT, M-A-A-T, if you don't know her. She is the Egyptian goddess of justice, integrity, balance. Her symbol is actually the scales, and you may have heard her myth, which is, and this is one of the joys of being a ritologist, a ritualist, and having women's circles. I actually don't have a statue of MAAT, as I have many goddess statues, but I do have her symbol, which I'll show you in a minute, because part of her myth is that when you die, when Egyptians believed that MAAT was the one that you first encountered on your way to the underworld, and she would weigh your soul in her scales. And on one side was your soul, on the other side was a feather. And if the scales tipped towards your soul and outweighed the feather, you could balance with it or you could be lighter than. Your soul was too heavy with guilt to enter the underworld, and then some not great things would happen. She gave you to somebody else to be devoured. However, I think equating this notion of being fair and just to ourselves with guilt, because we can often feel guilty if we treat ourselves badly, if we are unfair to ourselves, just as we're unfair to others. So, and she is definitely, she's she's the goddess of integrity, of fairness, of honesty, and she beckons us to examine our lives and to see if there's any place in our lives where we feel that we have not been fair to someone else, or is there a situation in our life where we may have been in full integrity and then we're not treated similarly. So with MAAT, you can bring to her any area that you're feeling out of balance, out of wholeness. And her message, her gift to us is that she will help us restore balance and wholeness wherever we need it in our lives if we bring ourselves to her. So I'll show you first. Always fun to do a little show and tell here. And the reason that I do that, the reason that I have all these goddess statues and why I have symbols like this is my scale. See, I even have a feather in it. Is that when I do ritual, I always like to say that symbols are the language of the unconscious, and ritual is symbolic action. And so with this scale, and here's this feather, I actually used this feather in our fall equinox service last night with Fourth Universalist Society that I co-facilitated. Symbols are the language of the unconscious. So even after you forget why you've made something, or even things like wedding rings carry so much meaning to them. And well past the time that we might have forgotten what something was, it evokes this really primal kind of collective unconscious connection to, in this case, to the notion of balance in our lives. So MAAT herself, let's see if, yes. So this is one of them, and the two goddess decks that I often draw from are the Goddess Oracle and the Goddess, I think it's just called the Goddess deck, Amy Marinchensky and Doreen Virtue. This is the image if you want to take a look. One of MAAT, which shows her with all kinds of fall colors, and she is holding, I don't know if you can see it very well, but she's holding a scale similarly to the one that I just showed you. And here MAAT herself is the scale. She's holding a jar in one hand. She's not holding a feather, but she does have her wings, much like Isis. The Egyptians loved their winged goddesses. And I think I mentioned this on Saturday in my fall equinox video, that I created years ago with several dear friends a series of seasonal playbooks. We call them the Authentic Woman Playbooks. And the fall equinox, for each of the solstices and the equinoxes, I created invocations for a particular goddess. I did not remember that the one that I had invoked, but it's certainly a likely one, for the fall equinox was MAAT. I will read you that invocation in a minute. I'll also share with you the power of symbol, and once we step into that place, I was going to tell you this and then it went out of my head. When I found this at a wonderful little place, I think down in the Village somewhere in New York City, it had in it these 2 pill boxes on each side. I don't know if you can see them very well. And it wasn't until I got home that I noticed that the pill boxes had designs on them. One was a scale. Where's the scale? There's the scale. And one was a ram for Aries. Now the scale is a symbol for Libra, and that's what the fall equinox, that's when it starts, is when the sun moves into the sign of Libra. So I love those coincidences that happen when you kind of step into that magical symbolic place. So what I invite you to do, I'm going to read my invocation to MAAT for you, and then just kind of let you reflect a minute. I'll ask some of those questions again, and take a moment just to breathe in, to welcome in MAAT when I do that, and to listen to her voice. How is it that she can help you to find balance and wholeness in your life? And then I will share with you my favorite fall equinox balance chant, which MAAT loves also, which we actually sang last night in our fall equinox virtual celebration. I will share a chant with you to wind up our call. So I invite you to close your eyes and just take this in. I welcome and honor MAAT, Egyptian goddess of balance, truth, and harmony. In your scales I place my body and spirit, my heart and soul. Teach me to honor the outer dance of light and dark, and to cultivate my own sense of inner balance, celebrating always the creative flow of chaos and order. So as you welcome that energy into your life, welcome the energy of balance and wholeness, contemplate some of those questions I asked you. Where in your life is there a situation that feels unfair, unreasonable to you? Have you been unjust to yourself? Have you judged yourself in ways that are not fair to your soul and your heart for who you are? Have you judged others? Have you been unfair in your observations or how you reach out to others? For any of those questions, invite this energy of justice into your life. Look at the world around us. Sometimes, especially in the last week, in the last several months, things have not felt just and fair. We want to kind of stamp our feet and say, it's not right, it's not fair. Why did this have to happen now? Or why is that happening in this way? MAAT helps us remember that in the larger world, in the universe, hard to claim this sometimes, that justice ultimately prevails. We may not see it now, but invite her presence into your life. And then I'll share with you my favorite chant for bringing in balance. And the lovely thing about doing this in this way and doing it on Zoom It is more fun to do it live when you can hear voices, but this is the chant that is kind of my quintessential chant, and there are some of you here who I think have, who will listen to this, who have sung this with me in circle. Air moves us, fire transforms us, water shapes us, earth heals us, and the balance of the wheel goes round and round, and the balance of the wheel goes round. Air moves us, fire transforms us, water shapes us, earth heals us, and the balance of the wheel goes round and round, and the balance of the wheel goes round. So, we'll close now with just an acknowledgement of where we can accept justice, accept balance into our lives. Maybe just sing this song the rest of the day. Just play it over and over, and as I always say in circle, join in before you're ready. I never put the words in the chat in Zoom or someplace else because that makes it a left brain thing. And chanting or singing these sorts of holy words are really a liminal experience. When we're in a place that we can really do it, the idea is to sing them and keep singing them until you think you can't sing them anymore. And that's the moment that you move from the mundane world into the magical world, where you cross the limen, you cross the threshold into a holy place, into a sacred place. So whether or not you've been able to come up with where there seems to be injustice in your life or in the world, I can think of several places right now, personally and globally. Whether or not you can do that, sink into this place of balance and at least bring your soul, your inner self, into a place of balance. Thanks so much for being with me, and have a beautiful, balanced rest of your day and beyond as we move through the autumn tide past this sacred fall equinox time. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.